Dear chess fans, dear ChessMood family, I'm Grandmaster Johan Hellsten, and today let's have a look at another very interesting topic, the escaping king. Here we're playing with the black pieces. As you can see, we're currently a whole piece up. However, white has a strong attack. His last move in the game was rook e4, and it's rather obvious what he has in mind. He would like to bring the rook to g4, while another important idea for him is to play queen d2, targeting the weak pawn on h6. At this point, please pause your video and try to come up with a good defensive idea for black. Try to find black's best choice at this moment. Okay, I will continue. In the first place, we should notice that bringing our king to the corner doesn't make sense here. King h8 would just run into queen d2, and we will have to move our king anyway in order to protect the pawn on h6. After king g7, rook g4, white has a very strong attack. On the other hand, if we try to bring our queen to the defense, mobilization in the defense, so to speak, by queen d8 or queen e7, well, it turns out that after rook g4 check, king h8, queen d2, queen f6, white has a very strong sacrifice here. He could play the surprising move bishop g6 in order to intercept the black queen along the 6th rank. If we now take on g6 after queen takes h6, king g8, rook takes g6, white gets back the material with a very important advantage. On the other hand, if after bishop g6 we play queen g7, well, it turns out that white can build a very strong battery. He can play here bishop c2. And once the black queen goes back to f6, we have queen d3. Very nice, creating the threat of queen h7 mate, which cannot be avoided in any proper way. However, in the game, black noticed that there is a much better solution here to his defense. He can play king g7. Very clever idea. The black king is running away, so to speak. It's going to escape along the dark squares. Here, white tried to keep his attack going by means of rook g4. This is his best choice, because if he plays, let's say, queen d2, trying to keep the black king busy protecting the pawn on h6, well, black would play simply here rook h8, taking up that task with a rook, so that after rook g4 check, the king could hide on f8. And here there is not a trace of a white attack anymore. So what white played in the game, rook g4 check, is a much better idea. Black continued with his plan. He played here king f6, and white tried to open up the position. This is very logical. He played here f4. And here, black must be careful. If he takes on f4, well, after rook takes f4, it wouldn't be that easy for black to continue his plan anymore. He cannot step on the e file, because in that case, the other white rook would join the action. So, for this reason in the game, black played a much better move. He simply continued with his plan. He played here king e7. White took on e5, trying to create new threats. There came rook e1. Black has to defend the pawn on e5, and at the same time he should try to make life a bit safer for his king. So for this reason he played a clever move king d8. White replied queen c3, renewing the threat of rook takes e5, and I think this was an interesting moment, because if we simply protect that pawn, if we play, let's say, f6, well, this would give black problems, because white could play now rook g7, and suddenly the king is not that safe anymore on d8. We have to look out for things like rook d7 check, for example. It doesn't make sense to play knight c5 due to b4, chasing away the knight. On the other hand, if we try, let's say, rook f7 instead, trying to defend the 7th rank, well, we would just run into bishop g6. For this reason, after queen c3, in the game, black found a much more practical move here. He played simply queen e7. Remember, sometimes when you're defending and your material up, it makes sense to give back something. And here, black gives back the e5 pawn in order to make life a bit safer for his king. After rook takes e5, queen d6. Again, the black king was rather safe. There are no immediate threats here. White tried rook f4, some pressure along the f-file, and here black found a very nice move, bishop c8. It's clear what he's looking for here. After bishop takes c8, king takes c8, black is able to bring his king to b7. A very nice shelter for the king. White didn't like the looks of this and he played bishop c2 instead. And here black simply continued with the plan of making life easier for his king. He played bishop d7, preparing to go king c8 and king b7. Actually, it's not easy for white to create any new threats here. He tried in the game a3, so that after king c8, he would be able to push b4. However, black simply replied king b7 and had a very good game. Later on, black managed to win this game. Please notice that at this point, if white tries c5, black will just take, and after b takes c5, he's ready to go queen takes c5, and he's giving check here. So white's attack would definitely come to an end here. Let's go back to the beginning and see what happened in this interesting example. Black noticed that his king was in huge danger on g8. And if he would bring the queen to the defense, by queen d8, white would have the very nice sacrifice bishop g6 with a huge advantage. And for this reason, he decided instead to play king g7 to escape with the king along the dark squares. White couldn't really stop this plan in any good way. He tried in the game rook g4 check, king f6 and f4, but black simply continued with his plan. He played king e7 here. After f takes e5, d takes e5, rook e1, king d8, the black king had reached a much safer place, and black went on to win. At this point, let's have a look at an exercise. Here again, we're playing with the black pieces, and again, we're actually a whole piece up. However, our king is in very deep trouble. As you can see, there is the immediate threat of rook f7, and another idea for white would be bishop h6. What would you play with black here? Which would you think is black's best choice? You can put your answer in the comment section. Thanks for today and see you next time. Good luck, thanks for joining the channel, and ChessMood.